Something I've observed in my own life and in the people I've had the privilege of working with is that the body doesn't give out suddenly. It begins to communicate gently, quietly, almost a whisper at first. And if that whisper goes unheard, it finds another way, a little louder, a little more insistent, until eventually it's speaking in a language it's very difficult to ignore. The ones who tend to push through the longest are often the most creative, the most driven, the most deeply invested in what they're building. If something brought you here, if something resonated, I'd invite you to sit with this question for a moment. What does it actually cost you to keep creating at the level you do? Not financially, energetically, the real expenditure, the one that doesn't show up on any balance sheet. I'm Wayne Paul, and this conversation is about exactly that. I'm the founder of Zen Gorillas and the creator of Integrated Living Arts. This is a one-on-one mentorship methodology for lead artists, for creatives who are ready to look honestly at what it takes to sustain the work, not just for now, but for the long term. The way we move the body, the way we nourish it, the quality of our rest, these aren't lifestyle additions to our creative work. They are its foundations. And when those foundations are shaky, everything built on top of them eventually reflects that. Here's what I keep seeing with creative people. The output runs high. It has to. The work demands it. Projects, deadlines, sessions that stretch late. The emotional investment that goes into making something that actually carries meaning and value. But the input, the genuine restoration, the physical care, the nourishment that's actually appropriate for the energy being spent, that tends to get left behind. And those whispers from the body grow harder to push through. The spine compresses and stiffens. Breath becomes shallow, held without you even noticing. Posture gradually shifts in ways that start to disconnect you from your own presence. Sleep becomes less restorative. Thinking becomes more reactive. And creativity starts to feel like something you have to push for rather than something that flows. What's happening in these moments is straightforward, even if it doesn't feel that way. The system, your body, your nervous system, your energy, has been running on output without sufficient input to balance it. And at some point, that deficit becomes impossible to ignore. And here's the tricky part. This is worth sitting with. It's that creatives tend to be incredibly sensitive people. And that sensitivity is exactly what makes their work so good. But it's also what makes it so easy for them to keep pushing through the signals, to mistake momentum for health and output for well-being. I understand this from the inside. Movement and music, those are two threads that have run through my whole life, but the story behind them is broader than either one. I was born in the UK, grew up in Malta, Mediterranean parents. Fresh sea air, seasonal food, sports as something completely natural. Basketball, football, swimming. As a kid, movement wasn't something I thought about. I just lived it. Then life accumulated on top of it. Over the years, I lived in a lot of different worlds. Government offices, insurance underwriting, teaching English, 15 plus years in hospitality and catering, bars, restaurants, night shifts, all the habits and rhythms that come with that life. Sales floors where I was performing well and hollowing out quietly, building my own business and running through all of it, a DJ career across Malta and Iceland, and a deep relationship with music production that I still carry privately today. Each of those chapters looked different on the surface, but underneath they had something in common. The body kept absorbing the pace. And it was in searching for a way back that I found movement, really found it. The Czech Institute of Holistic Studies, Budokon Mixed Movement Arts, Primal Moves, 15 years of studying how the body is actually designed to function. And what I discovered was that I wasn't learning anything new. I was remembering how I moved as a kid on those Malta beaches before years of desk work and night shifts and survival mode had quietly buried it. And for a while, that remembering felt like enough. It wasn't. The gap between knowing the practices and actually being well is something I had to live my way into understand. Eventually, I'd been running everything in one gear for too long. My business, my practice, my life. High out, constant forward motion, convincing myself that more effort was the answer to every problem. My movement practice had become warfare. Yang without yin, fire without water, gorilla without zen. It caught up with me. What began as a week of complete sleep failure turned into over a year, multiple trips to the emergency room, and a body that simply refused to keep moving in the direction I was pushing it. And what followed was one of the longest journeys back I've ever taken. Not just through the physiological, through the emotional, the mental, and the energetic. Every layer had to be looked at. Nothing got to stay hidden. And that experience changed the way I understand this work entirely. Not because it broke me, but because it showed me what I'd been missing. The way out wasn't more effort. It was surrender, integration, learning to restore as deliberately as I'd been pushing. I like to say, strength got me here and surrender is taking me further. I moved to a lakefront cabin in a whale field in Iceland and began rebuilding from the breath up. So what is it that most wellness approaches tend to miss for creative people specifically? Consider how many fitness approaches build at the surface and how rarely, in my experience, they reach the inner architecture beneath, the deep core, the breathing mechanics, the spinal health that quietly underpins everything. Nutritional guidance, more often than not, is built around an average schedule, one that rarely accounts for how a creative actually lives. The late sessions, the irregular rhythm, the particular way that sustained output interacts with hunger, digestion, and energy. And rest, perhaps the most misunderstood of the three, is so often reduced to the simple absence of activity. Very few conversations in the wellness space genuinely explore the quality of restoration or ask the deeper question, where is the real stress load coming from for this particular person? What specific patterns are sustaining their depletion, and why haven't they shifted? The result is a loop, doing more things, feeling temporarily better, and gradually finding yourself back in the same place. The issue isn't effort. It's that the foundations were never properly established. Integrated Living Arts, ILA, is a 3-foundation methodology that addresses the complete picture of what a human being needs to operate sustainably. The 3 foundations are MoveLab, EatLab, and RestLab. MoveLab is where we rebuild a relationship with how your body moves, beginning with the deeper structures, the inner unit, the breath, the spine, not performance first, foundation first. EatLab is where we establish what nourishment actually looks like for your specific system, your primal pattern, your metabolism, your schedule, your creative demand, not a rule book, an investigation. RestLab is where we honestly assess your stress load, identify the priority areas draining your energy, and build practices that genuinely restore rather than merely pause. These 3 foundations don't operate in isolation. They support and reinforce each other. When they're working together, they create the conditions for what I call energetic balance, a sustainable equilibrium between what you give out and what you bring in. The journey moves through 3 phases. Ground first, then integrate, and then play. Ground is about establishing the foundations honestly, meeting your body where it actually is, not where you think it should be. Integrate is where awareness starts to become practice, and play is where everything opens up, where creativity and embodiment stop being separate conversations. This work is for lead artists, musicians, producers, DJs, visual artists, graphic designers, who have reached a point where the imbalance between their input and output is no longer something they can ignore. It's for people willing to look at their foundations honestly. People who are ready to take personal responsibility for their energy rather than continuing to outsource it to the next program, supplement, or wellness trend. This isn't a quick fix. It's a protocol. It's a genuine shift in how you understand and relate to your body, and through that, how you sustain your creative work. If that's where you are, I think we should talk. I work with a small number of people at a time, one-to-one, fully present. And I want to be honest about something. I'm not here as someone who has had it all figured out. I'm still walking this path, still being coached myself, still learning. I teach from ongoing navigation, not arrived mastery. And I think that matters. We're living through what I think of as the resonance era. The age of information is over. It's free, it's everywhere, and it's losing its value by the day. What isn't free is proximity to someone who has actually lived the work, who carries it in their body, not just their head. And that's what this is. Not a course, not a system, transmission through relationship. The pre-qualifier form is on my website and wherever you found this video. It's a short set of questions and it helps us both understand whether this is the right fit for you and for me. There's no hard sell at the end. No pressure, just an honest conversation about where you are, where you want to be, and whether integrated living arts can genuinely serve that. I take this work seriously, which means I'm looking for people who do too. Your body has been waiting for you patiently. While everything else has been demanding your attention, it's been holding all of it. The stress, the tension, the pace. It doesn't need to be fixed. It simply needs to be heard. Your creativity doesn't come despite your body. It comes through it. Every dream, every vision, every purpose, it all moves through the body first. This is the peaceful warrior path. Wild enough to create, conscious enough to sustain. And I look forward to potentially guiding you home to your body. Keep exploring and playing with curiosity.